Okay, so number 20, it says 5 parts, but they give us this really complex worded sentence, what it looks like. So it just says in 2005, it took 19.93 currency units to equal the value of 1 currency unit in 1915. So they're converting money, and then you have several other transformations. So they tell you in 1990 it took 1270 to equal the value in 1915, and then it takes the amount it takes to equal 1 value of currency in the unit 1915 can be estimated by this function. So basically they've taken order pairs, they've come up with an equation to help you to solve where to find the equal value of currency in any specific year. X is the number of years since 1990. And then it says thus V11, so if you add 11 to 1990, that will put you in 2001. So that's what this means. In 2001, to equal the value of 1 currency unit in 1915. So we're going to use that function to predict 2012 and 2019. Okay, so I'm going to use technology to do this. I'm going to show you how to do it with technology, and then I will write it down and show you what you would do by hand if you want to do one part at a time. All right, so one way to do this really quickly is to plug an equation into y equal. So your Vx is your y equal, and then on the right side, I'm going to type the equation. So I'm going to type it 0.4891. You really don't need the 0 out front of the point, but I'm just doing it for continuity. And then we're going to add 13.2564. Anytime you type something into a computer or calculator, I would double check to make sure it's right. 4891, and then 13, and then we got 2564. Okay, so I'm going to hit graph. I see a little part, but I'm not really concerned with the graph. I want to see the table. So I'm going to do second graph to see the table. Now, we want to know, we want to predict the amount it would take in 2012. Okay, 2012 from 1990 is going to be 22 years if you do the math. So 22 years is what we're looking for. So X is the number of years. I'm just going to scroll down until I get to 22. And then I see 24.017. Okay, so I'm going to say, I'm going to write that down. V of 22, because that's what we're doing, is, lost my number, 24. Let's move this down. What was that number? Where'd that calculator go? 24.07017. 24.017. All right. And then they also want to know in 2019. So I'd add 7 years. That would be V29. So I'm also going to use this calculator and go down and find 29. And at 29 years, we get 27.44. Okay, by hand, what we're doing, we're using the equation that they gave us, Vx equals 0.0. Well, I think it wasn't a 0 out front, sorry. Equation was 0.4891 x plus 13.2564. Okay, so one thing you can do, and I would still be using a calculator. I say by hand, but you can just write it out and show each step. You would do, not V of X, we would do V of 22. and then we would do 0.4891. You got to convert and plug in a 22 here, and then plus 13.2564. So you would still type that in the calculator, compute it, and you should come up with these two numbers. You can also, on the calculator, quit, just type it in, just like that, instead of doing the graph. I like to do the graph because I only have to type the equation once, and then I go find the number, versus typing it every time. So 0.4891, and then in parentheses, I'm going to do 22, close it, plus 13.2564. And then when I hit enter, it gives me the 24.0166. It just rounded up. And then if I do second and enter, so second enter recalls the last thing you typed in. That'll allow me to go in here and type over the 22 and make it a 29. And then we see the 27.44. So those two numbers. All right, so you can type it by hand, or you can use that graphing function. So in 2012, it wants us to round the 2 decimal places. So rounding the 2 decimal places, this 7 will cause this to round up. So 24.02. 24.02. And then in 2019, it took 27.44 currency units. Okay, so we have a couple more parts, or actually one more part. What did we do? It says it was 5 parts, and now we're already on part 4. Not really sure what the other parts were. Okay, so when will it take approximately 30 currency units to equal a value of 1? So now we're looking for the answer to be 30. So if you were doing this by hand, you would plug a 30 over here as your answer, 0.4891x plus 13.2564. You would subtract the 13 and then divide to get your answer. Or if I go second graph, I already have that table in there. I'm looking for the closest to 30 in the y-axis. So I'll just scroll down, and the first time I get to 30 is 35 years. So, I mean, it could be this one if you round up, but it's not exactly 30. So I think we would probably want to go with 35. So it's going to take approximately 35 years to get that. Let's show you how to do that by hand. So I'm going to take 30, and then I'm going to subtract 13.2564. So I'm going to go second, quit. I'm going to do 30 minus 13.2564. Okay, so when you subtract that, that's going to leave us with 16.7436 equals 0.4891x. All right, now we're going to divide by this 0.4891. All right, so I'm going to divide by 0.4891. So divide the current answer by 0.4891. Okay, and you see that doesn't match up. 13.2564. They're coming up with 34.23 years. So it looks like it's probably going to be better to say approximate, round to the nearest year. So this does not round up, so 34. So we would probably want to go with 34 here. Let's see what they want. Even if I did, let me go back to the table. If we did 35, it would round down to 35. So let's see. So 34 years is what they're looking at instead of 35. So it's good to do both. I did it by hand, did it by the calculator. Rounding to the nearest year, we would use 34, but if we want to go exactly, that would be a little bit over. So 34 in this case.